Sparrows are one of the most numerous birds on our planet. They once lived in abundance on the territory of China. But the cute birds often pecked grain in the fields and during harvest, for which the peasants disliked them. This circumstance was the reason for the tragic and at the same time instructive story that took place in China. At the end of the 50s of the last century, about 600 million people lived in China. Grain cultivation was the most important branch of agriculture, which provided food for a multi-million population. At the same time, the country's leadership and society as a whole understood that it was necessary to fight harmful animals that make life difficult for the Chinese people. The list of worst enemies includes rats, mosquitoes, flies, and sparrows. The thing is that the peasants have always considered these birds to be dangerous pests. They ate grain in the fields and also stole it from the barns. They have a well-established reputation as food competitors who prevent Chinese peasants from defeating hunger. Chinese scientists also joined the voices of dissatisfied farmers. It turned out that sparrows eat enough grain per year to feed 35 million people. Against the background of the battle, to increase the harvest and improve the lives of the people, a large-scale pest control campaign was launched in China in the spring of 1958. But, as historians note, flies, mosquitoes, and rats turned out to be not so easy to cope with, and the fight against them quickly came to naught. Sparrows were less fortunate. Millions of Chinese, including children, took part in the extermination of birds. It turned out that sparrows could not stay in the air for a long time, and it was worth not letting them sit on the ground or a tree for 15 minutes, as they fell dead. People were making noise, waving sticks, flags, and did not let the birds rest. By the winter of 1958, according to experts, about 1.96 billion sparrows had been destroyed throughout the country. Along with them, other small birds often suffered, which were also exterminated. The people rejoiced, and on radio and television they joyfully reported that the main enemies of the country's agriculture were finished. As proof of this, next year China harvested a record grain harvest at that time. No one doubted the correctness of the measures taken to exterminate sparrows. True, people began to notice that there were more caterpillars, locusts, and other insects eating the harvest in the fields, but this did not alarm anyone. What happened next shows better than any other example how dangerous thoughtless interference with nature is. Numerous insect pests, which in turn left offspring, laid the foundation for future prosperity in the absence of predators. Small birds, primarily sparrows, were an important link in China's ecosystem and the only deterrent to millions of insects. Of course, they ate grain in the fields and did some harm, but no one took into account the fact that before the harvest ripens, sparrows feed on caterpillars and locusts. The following summer, all those who were usually exterminated by sparrows reigned in the fields of China. People were taken out of production, and school children were taken out of classes to fight insects. But no one could do it better than sparrows and small birds. Already in the autumn, it became clear that the country was going to starve. So great were the losses in the fields. According to various estimates, 10 to 30 million people died as a result of food shortages in China, and some researchers cite even more horrifying figures. The leaders of the state, realizing the horror of what had happened, appealed to the USSR and Canada with a request to send sparrows to China, which was done. From that moment, a careful restoration of the sparrow population began in China, and the birds were declared the best friends of the people.